On the evening of October 21, 1978, a young pilot flying alone over the waters south of Australia radioed air traffic control with a strange report. He claimed an unidentified aircraft was following him. Over the next several minutes, his descriptions became increasingly unusual. He reported strange lights, unusual movement, and an object that appeared to be circling above him. Then came a final transmission. A brief metallic sound filled the radio frequency. After that, silence. Neither the pilot nor his aircraft were ever seen again. More than 4 decades later, the disappearance of Frederick Valentich remains one of the most debated aviation mysteries in Australian history. Was he the victim of an accident? Did he become disoriented while flying at night? Or did he truly encounter something unknown in the skies above Bass Strait? This is the Mystery Files investigation into the disappearance of Frederick Valentich. Frederick Valentich was a 20-year-old Australian pilot from Melbourne. Flying had been his passion for years, and he hoped to build a professional aviation career. While he held a private pilot's license, his experience was relatively limited. Records indicate he had accumulated approximately 150 hours of flight time. Despite his enthusiasm for aviation, Valentich had encountered some difficulties during his training. He had previously failed portions of commercial pilot examinations and had received warnings about flying procedures. Still, he remained determined to improve his skills. On October 21, 1978, Valentich planned a flight from Melbourne to King Island, located in the waters between mainland Australia and Tasmania. He filed a flight plan and departed in a single-engine Cessna 182 shortly after 6 p.m. The journey should have been routine. Instead, it would become one of Australia's most enduring mysteries. As evening darkness settled over Bass Strait, Valentich continued south toward King Island. At approximately 7:06 p.m., he contacted Melbourne Air Traffic Control with an unusual question. He asked whether there was any known aircraft flying below 5,000 feet in his area. Controllers checked and informed him that no aircraft were known to be operating nearby. Valentich then reported seeing a large aircraft approaching him. According to his transmissions, the object appeared to have several bright lights and was traveling at high speed. At first, air traffic controllers assumed he might be observing another aircraft. However, Valentich's descriptions soon became increasingly difficult to explain. He stated that the object was passing above him and appeared much larger than his Cessna. He reported that it had 4 bright landing lights and an unusual metallic appearance. As the conversation continued, Valentich told controllers that the object seemed to be orbiting around his aircraft. He described it as moving in ways that did not resemble conventional airplanes. At one point, he stated that the object had a shiny exterior and a green light. His voice remained relatively calm, but there were signs of growing confusion. Then came one of the most famous moments in the case. Valentich reported that the object was hovering above him and added, "It is not an aircraft." Air traffic controllers requested additional details, but the situation quickly deteriorated. Valentich reported that his engine was experiencing rough running. Moments later, the radio transmission was interrupted by an unexplained metallic noise. The sound lasted several seconds. Then all communication ceased. Repeated attempts to contact Valentich received no response. His aircraft had vanished. When Valentich failed to arrive at King Island, search and rescue operations began. Aircraft and boats searched large areas of Bass Strait over several days. The search covered thousands of square miles of ocean. No wreckage was found. No oil slicks were discovered. No emergency locator signals were detected. Most aircraft accidents leave at least some physical evidence behind. In this case, investigators recovered nothing that could conclusively be linked to Valentich's disappearance. Australian authorities conducted an extensive investigation. The official inquiry reviewed flight records, weather reports, radio communications, pilot history, and witness reports. Investigators confirmed that Valentich had made the radio transmissions exactly as recorded. However, they could not determine what object he had observed. The inquiry ultimately concluded that there was insufficient evidence to determine the cause of the disappearance. In official terms, the case remained unresolved. Over the years, a handful of witnesses claimed to have observed unusual lights in the sky around the same time as Valentich's final flight. While intriguing, none of these reports could be independently verified as being connected to the disappearance. As a result, the mystery remained open. The most widely discussed conventional explanation involves spatial disorientation. Flying at night over open water can be extremely challenging. Without visible landmarks or a clear horizon, pilots can become confused about their aircraft's position and movement. Some investigators believe Valentich may have become disoriented while descending into a gradual turn. Under this theory, he may have mistaken reflections, stars, planets, or even his own aircraft lights for another object. Supporters point to his limited experience and previous training difficulties. Critics, however, note that this theory does not fully explain the unusual descriptions he provided during his final transmissions. It also cannot explain why no wreckage was ever conclusively recovered. Another possibility is that Valentich observed a bright astronomical object. Researchers have noted that the planet Venus was visible in the evening sky during the time of the incident. Venus is often mistaken for an aircraft or unidentified object because of its brightness. Combined with atmospheric conditions and reflections from the aircraft's windows, some investigators believe this could have contributed to Valentich's observations. The weakness of this theory is that it requires multiple factors occurring simultaneously to produce the detailed descriptions heard in the radio recordings. Some researchers have suggested that an engine problem may have caused the accident. Valentich did report rough engine operation shortly before contact was lost. A mechanical failure over open water could certainly lead to a crash. However, this theory does not explain the unidentified object that Valentich repeatedly described. It may account for his disappearance, but not necessarily for everything that happened beforehand. The most famous theory is that Valentich genuinely encountered an unidentified flying object. UFO researchers point to his repeated descriptions of unusual movement, bright lights, and the statement that the object was not an aircraft. Supporters also note that some witnesses later reported unusual lights in the region. According to this theory, Valentich may have encountered an unknown aerial phenomenon shortly before vanishing. The major weakness is the complete lack of physical evidence. No photographs, radar confirmations, or recovered materials have ever supported the UFO explanation. As a result, it remains speculation rather than a proven conclusion. Today, most aviation investigators favor some version of the disorientation or misidentification explanation. The combination of nighttime flying, open water, limited visual references, and Valentich's relatively modest experience provides a plausible explanation for many aspects of the incident. Many experts believe he likely became confused about his aircraft's orientation and eventually crashed into Bass Strait. However, important questions remain unanswered. What exactly was the object he reported seeing? Why was no definitive wreckage ever recovered? And what caused the strange metallic sound heard during the final transmission? Those questions continue to fuel debate decades later. The disappearance of Frederick Valentich sits at the intersection of aviation history and unexplained mystery. A young pilot departed on what should have been an ordinary flight. Instead, he left behind one of the most puzzling radio conversations ever recorded in Australian aviation. Whether the answer lies in human error, unusual circumstances, or something still unexplained, one fact remains unchanged. Neither Frederick Valentich nor his aircraft have ever been conclusively found. More than 40 years later, the mystery continues to inspire investigation, debate, and speculation around the world. So what do you think happened over Bass Strait on that October night in 1978? Was it a tragic aviation accident? Or did Frederick Valentich encounter something that has never been fully explained? If you enjoyed this mystery file, please subscribe if you're not and leave a like. Thank you for watching, and we'll catch you on the next mystery.